Perfect. All right. I think we've got everybody.
Yep.
We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to the next panel. My name is Tyler Chaffee. I'm a target market specialist with TVA, based here out of Nashville, Tennessee. I'll be the moderator for today's panel on advanced manufacturing. Before we dive into the questions, let everybody introduce themselves here. Blair, we'll start with you. Just give a little background overview.
Sure. Thanks, Tyler. Blair Westmoreland, Senior Manager with Deloitte. I have been with Deloitte for 7 years now, focusing on credits and incentives and site selection. Don't really focus on any one industry. I am happy to work on any project that needs some help and assistance in their site selection process. Prior to joining Deloitte, I spent 7 years with the Georgia Department of Economic Development, so very familiar with both the economic development side and the sites. So happy to be here, and I'm 2 weeks off maternity leave, so if I'm a little slow, that's why.
Perfect. We'll go. Let's go with Mike next.
Right. Blair, are you accusing yourself of having baby brain? I doubt that.
Well, I don't know what today is, but I'm not sure I knew what the day was before I had babies or not. So
okay. I can't believe you've been there 7 years. It feels like it's been like
I can't either.
So I'm Mike Eickhoff. I'm managing director. I'm out of Chicago with Thornton. I lead our credits and incentives practice for the firm. I've been doing economic development and site selection work for a little over 20 years. Like Blair, I started my career in government and worked in state economic development in Illinois. Then before I decided I need to make a little bit of money versus working a lot and making a little. So wised up a bit. And I've probably been doing consulting about 15 of my 20 years of experience. So thank you very much for all of your time. I look forward to speaking with you all.
Great. John, we'll finish up with you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. John Longshore, Senior Managing Director at Newmark, formerly with Global Location Strategies. Just a few weeks ago, made that switch, so kind of fresh news there. But my experience over the past 9 years has been really heavy industrial manufacturing, a lot of site selection done over the South and Southeast, but spread over the world, but a lot here in the U.S. So looking forward to the discussion today.
Perfect. We'll hop in. First question, the hard-hitting question. What is advanced manufacturing to you, and do you consider it a target sector? If your answer is no to the target sector, I know a lot of people have that listed as a target sector. How do you propose that they kind of differentiate themselves from other communities? What's kind of a good way to dive into that a little deeper there? John, we'll start with you, and then anybody else chime in?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the joke, at least it has been internally within some site selection circles, is that advanced manufacturing was everybody's target. And no one seemed to really know what it actually meant. It just sounded good to put on marketing material. And it seemed to just really be a catch-all for pretty much anything and everything in between. I guess the joke is that isn't manufacturing, pretty much advanced now. So, for me, it's, can you get any more specific? What is the industry that you're trying to actually attract? Because advanced manufacturing is just more of a descriptor. So if you can put more of a name and a description on that particular or specific industry that you want, that's better than just a catch-all for advanced manufacturing, because it doesn't differentiate you from the next community who has that on their marketing material.
Blair, Mike, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think John nailed it. It's, advanced manufacturing is pretty much all manufacturing. Any company or industry that's really using any sort of innovative technology to improve their process or their product. And that's everyone in manufacturing right now. So John really nailed it.
Yeah, and I don't have much to add other than I have fun with my clients because they're trying to tell everyone they're advanced manufacturing. And I'm like, well, you are, because they're And I'm like, let's just focus on your business because, like, you know, just like John and Blair, everyone's advanced manufacturing unless you're working in like some dirt floor and like, you know, I'll just say Southern Illinois because I'm in Illinois. So, you know, there's not many folks that aren't doing that.
Sure. Well, I think over the you know the morning that we've heard, most consultants are, you know, as busy as they've ever been. We're certainly seeing it on the local and regional side. You know, project activity is extremely busy. I think that all kind of started when the U.S. eased their restrictions domestically. We saw a lot of project activity, a lot of domestic companies looking around. The question is, do you see a similar explosion of kind of FDI related projects once international borders open up? And kind of what are your thoughts around that? Blair, we can start with you.
Yeah, no, the FDI report puts us at 30% down in investment and I think 40% down in jobs as far as FDI projects over, I think that was 2020. There's not, at least FDI does not claim 2021 is going to see much of a change. They think it's going to drop another 5 to 10% before some sort of turnaround maybe in 2022. But that's not to say there's not projects out there. I know especially in renewable energy, it's probably what's leading the number of FDI projects I've seen lately, whether it's the battery industry. I think everybody is working a battery project right now. You know, I'm waiting to see about the carbon composites to see if they're going to have spearhead some FDI projects. But, you know, I think it's a wait and see, but it's definitely not, there's definitely no projects. It's just very limited as far as the industry goes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like we had a couple of projects coming in out of Canada. So you can argue whether or not that's FDI or not. That kind of went on hold until the Canadian border with the U.S. opened again. You know, where I've seen FDI focused, I mean, I think back in, God, it feels like a lifetime ago, 2018, 2019, a lot of foreign-based companies put small little footprints in the U.S. And the few that we've seen that opened up small operations, like take it into port, ship it domestically, specifically in the pharma medical device field, we're seeing those operations expand. Like we have one client that has 50,000 square foot manufacturing site that now is in the Southeast, actually now looking for 250,000 square foot to expand and grow. So, you know, so I'm kind of looking at FDI a little bit differently than most do. So from that perspective, I've seen a little bit of a pickup, but largely it's not like, it's just like Blair said, it's not like where we're getting calls from our Japanese firm or any other German firm for a brand new investment looking in the U.S.
Yeah, and then anecdotally, you know, I'll just agree with Mike and Blair on that. It was somewhere towards the turn of the year, you know, January came along and, you know, we're starting to get some phone calls from, you know, folks not in the U.S., some Canada, some Europe, some Asia. With these battery projects, we were having to also ask the question, like, are these guys for real? Are these a real company kind of thing? Which is always an interesting thing to try and have that dialogue. But, you know, over 2020, you know, the FDI was pretty much nothing. Didn't really ERP from anybody, but turn of the year, a little bit more activity, but still most of that just seems to be domestic.
Yeah. Got it. So kind of going towards competition, you know, over the past few years, the South's competition for economic development projects has kind of shifted a little bit. It seems like the American Southwest, that Arizona area, is kind of the new competitor for the Southeast region. So what's so attractive about that area over there? And then two, how can we as a region, a large region, the Southeast, what can we do to stay on top and continue to be successful in recruiting, you know, these highly automated manufacturing projects?
So, I mean, for what I'm seeing, I don't necessarily know if the Southwest or let's call it the Eastern West is really about inbound or real expansions. I think at least our experience in our firm has been it's more of a migration out of California, and they want to stay in the Pacific time zone. And they'll take a peek at like Dallas or Austin. They may take a peek in Virginia, which seems a little out. I mean, a little bit farther than I would expect. They might look at some other, like some mountains, Denver or Boise, but Arizona, New Mexico, those states, they're getting a lot of deals from that migration out of California. That's what I'm seeing anyway. I don't know about the others.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're not. I don't have any projects that's looking at the Southeast and the Southwest and comparing the two. It's like Mike said. It is everyone leaving California, and they're too scared to go too far just yet. And they're finding. I've worked a couple of projects specifically in Arizona. I've got a couple in Nevada right now. We're finding workforce. We're finding skilled workforce. We're finding that the programs. I think the Southeast has been so successful in the past with developing great, strong economic development programs that other states are now copying them. And so you see a lot of the similar programs out west now than you do in the Southeast. So they're learning from the Southeast for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say, just in terms of, the Southeast has been successful, over the past 10, 20 years. And, if you kind of look at the example of Nashville, right, and how successful it's been, and just the barrier to entry has gotten higher, and so what once was maybe an easier place to consider, where somebody might be willing to make that investment, the concerns around the housing, the workforce, right, those are becoming more common, and so it's just not everybody's flocking to the Southeast. Southwest is having its time in the sun, I guess, no pun intended. There, while the Southeast is having to address some of these issues that have come up, which is a good thing, but it's just a unique thing that has to be addressed for various locations around the Southeast. It's its own problems that we're having to deal with here, which is better than it was 20 years ago. We were just trying to make a name for ourselves.
I think, John, you raise a really great point as well, because I have one company that's looking to move from the Northeast to Florida, for example. But what's coming back, I mean, Orlando's a really hot market in the Southeast, but I think what we're seeing is a lot of the South is built out. The Southeast is built out, and the workforce is, Huntsville is a great example. Nashville's a great example. Orlando's booming. Tampa. We had another client looking at Atlanta, and the first thing was too expensive. And I think so. Prices are also coming up, which is why perhaps somewhere in the West is getting more attractive, because land is still pretty reasonable there.
Got it.
Yeah, and it's funny. We've got a comment over here from Troy about the water resources. That definitely is an issue and a concern in a number of areas out west. We have run into that, so that is definitely a legit concern.
Mm-hmm. Mike, you mentioned the South being kind of built out. As far as catching your attention, right? We hear from consultants all the time that there's all the good sites are taken. Right. What do locals need to do to kind of get a site ready that's going to catch your eye? Is it making it pad ready? Is it throwing a spec building up? What's kind of the mark there?
I really don't know the best answer to that question, because the stuff that we do involves more looking at markets, and I think before we even look at dirt, it starts with labor. Maybe John or Blair could answer that a little bit better. I think the shovel ready thing is of the past. I think companies expect that. It's not an incentive, it's an expectation. But I don't know, Blair or John, if you can answer that better than I can.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot to do with timing as well. We're seeing projects on a much shorter time frame. So, pad ready, as Mike said, that's almost a given. That's something that companies, just think should be there. And then also depending on timing, I mean, if they've got to have a building, they'll retrofit, any type of building if they need it fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's the development life cycle, right? How many sites do you have, in the process, the time that it takes to get it pad ready, especially for your larger sites. And so, having a good I guess, roster of, up and coming sites that you're, planning to put money into, over the next 10 to 20 years? Because it's just hard. You can't just create those, within a short time frame. And so it's just making sure that you've got the long game in mind, because you're already, once you sell one site, you're already behind the 8 ball, right? So it's a good success, but then what's next is always the question for economic developers and, even their city council, right? Like, what is next? That's always going to be the next question. You have to, appropriate the right amount of funds to be prepared.
Sure. So, it seems like everywhere across the country right now has got a workforce problem, right? And we've been hearing for years that automation's going to take American jobs. And we've seen, over the past couple of years, the capital investment trending upward and the job numbers trending downwards, right, on new projects. And then we've seen expansions as well that, maybe adding capital investment but have a net negative job number, right? How do locals or communities kind of spin that to their elected officials and boards as a positive to get them to, incentivize these kinds of deals?
I ran some quick math just looking at the past 18 months, because I've had 27 advanced manufacturing projects in the past 18 months that have either located or are in the process of locating, that we're working currently. And of the 27 projects, the average investment is $112 million and only 85 jobs. So it's, that goes for greenfield and expansions. The greenfield projects, I mean, the average we were seeing were around 150 to 200 jobs with 350 to 450 million. So it is definitely a lot of capital. It is a lot of machinery. It's, the good thing is they're looking for higher skilled workforce, and they're paying for it. A lot of these projects averaging 55, 65,000 annual salaries, coming with full benefits. So they're attractive jobs, but you have to have the skill sets, in order to get these jobs. So, when you're talking to your board of directors, your economic development agencies, everybody who needs to get on board with recruiting these types of projects, think higher property taxes, less demand on your city services, your fire, your police, your schools. They're not being overcrowded. You're not having to hire additional services. And just, they're quality jobs for the people in your community.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the messaging to leadership on the ability of your community to absorb at least the job numbers, notwithstanding, if the utilities are extreme at the same time, and the ability to accommodate there, but at least on the jobs and the ability to expand within your community, and being able to hit 10 singles versus trying to wait for one home run, right? The Memphis mega site in the TVA region is a good example of that's a decades long project, and many millions of dollars being put into it, right? And who knows when that's going to come along. So the frequency at which they occur, in the I guess communicating just what is the likelihood of our community being able to land those types of projects, right? You're able to sell that a lot easier, because the days of I don't know the frequency, but the days of landing a 1,000-person job, that's just, for most communities, it's just not going to happen, and it's not going to be very frequent either. So just trying to at least communicate the likelihood is a lot easier for these advanced manufacturing low job projects, and the ability to win those.
Right, and I think just to add a little bit to what you both said, I mean, if you're trying to sell it to your community, look at it from a perspective of a company's not going to come in and drop $150 million and leave, right? It's a lot easier to do that when you're dropping 10 or 15 million and you have 300 jobs. I mean, it's never easy to leave. And those are great, because I know legislatures and general assemblies, village boards, city boards love to see about jobs. But the reality is the jobs just aren't there. I mean, they weren't there in 2019. They weren't there in 2018. different economic reasons than today. They're still not there. So companies have to adapt. And, you know, when they're coming and spending, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, that's an asset that's going to be there for a long time. You know, like Blair mentioned, you have higher wages, lesser demands on housing. Every community, you know, Tyler, we were talking about Nashville. I've been doing this 20 years and I've never seen housing being built up like I have in Nashville. And I was there over Thanksgiving. And, you know, so the demand on housing is going to be lower as well. So, I mean, you're going to have, there's a lot of assets to a big project like that. You know, they have to shift away from focusing on jobs.
Right. Well, we're coming up on the end of our panel time here. I've got one last question. You know, again, consultants are the busiest they've ever been. Communities are seeing the project activity increase, all while there's, you know, this large workforce shortage across the country. It's hard for me to see all of these projects landing. Some of them have to go on hold or disappear or something, right? I mean, they can't all locate. You guys have any thoughts on that? What's the consensus there? I mean, there's a ton of projects out there, and there's nowhere near enough workforce to support all of them. So what are y'all's thoughts on that?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the ones that are more apt to fail are the dreamers. I mean, there's a lot of dreamers out there, specifically in the renewable energy space, that, you know, want to drop $150 million to build 2 plants because renewable methane's a big thing now, renewable methane conversion with all the vacant coal plants. You know, I think the dreamers are going to be probably easier to drop off. We've had 2 of them drop off, but I think the more established companies are still going to continue to move forward. It might be not as fast as we want. We've had one that had a couple starts and stops, but I mean, the start and stop wasn't 6 months; it was a month.
Yeah, I think we may see 1 or 2 of the big battery projects. We probably won't see the 10 that are out there floating around right now. And I think what we're going to see is we're going to see some of these mega projects maybe break up into smaller projects, because you're just not going to find 1,000, 2,000 people in one location. So I think we're going to see, you know, more of the projects, you know, maybe the company, instead of 1 big project, you know, maybe 2 or 3.
Similar to what Amazon did with their headquarters then.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to kind of echo a little bit with what Mike was saying, you know, you've got various companies who, you know, have developed or acquired, you know, a certain technology, and they're, you know, trying to deploy it at scale, and, you know, they have, you know, certain dreams of it being, you know, locating 20 facilities in 10 years, and, you know, they're going for gangbusters, and they've got the financing, and you know, how likely is it that they're going to be able to do, you know, multiple of these, right? There's a lot of ambition behind it, and the technology might be legit, the business case might be legitimate, but trying to site that many facilities and develop them all at the same time, you know, that's very difficult to do, especially if it's more of a startup type of a company. They don't have the internal infrastructure to handle that. So you still might see some of those move forward, 1 or 2 versus, you know, their plan to 8, whatever it might be. So we'll just have to see what the future holds. It's been a weird year and weird projects, and so we'll see.
Perfect. Well, once again, thank you all for. Thank you all again for the time. We're going to go to the roundtable discussions at this point. But again, thank you all for joining us and offering the insight. And we'll continue the conversation at the tables.
Excellent.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks.